Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to do a discussion about blood sugar, and we our NTP, and we will be discussing all the fun things about blood sugar and how to regulate it. Let me see if I can get it's already on. Let's see. There we go. Hi, my earphones are not connecting very well. I'm going to see if I just can quickly sort this out.
Right.
Because it just makes the sound so much better when we record.
Okay, sure.
Uh,
I need to put on share video.
okay. Oh my gosh. And now I can't figure it out. What a lovely start to the day. Okay, I'm going to record without it. I just had it working, and then when I started, the thing it just wasn't there.
Things like technology.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. I am really hot at the moment. I think I'm so nervous.
Yeah, you've done this before, haven't you?
Yes, I have. But every single time it's like it's new
Okay.
and exciting and everything. So it's
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah.
yeah. So Tori, how about you introduce yourself to everybody on my side? And because I think a lot of people might not know you, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Siori Kabat. I'm a nutritional therapist. I am based in Geneva in Switzerland, and my main focus is helping busy women to regain energy, mental focus, get rid of their food cravings, and just feel good about themselves so that they can get more out of life.
Oh, that is excellent. Excellent. Yes, so me and Tori met on Instagram.
We did.
While she was living in South Africa, my home country, and I was living in Qatar, the Middle East. We were studying together, but we were not in the same group. So we just randomly found each other on Instagram, and we connected, and we've met up already in person. And it was just amazing to meet somebody that was doing the same course at the same time, even though we were not in the same group. So that was a good start to this relationship.
Yeah.
So, Tori, so we've decided to discuss blood glucose today.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so do you want to start with explaining to us what is blood glucose, and then we can take it from there?
Yes, of course. So, blood glucose is basically the glucose that's found in your blood at any time, and it is the energy that your body prefers. So at any one time, your body requires between 4 and 5 grams of glucose for energy processes, and that's just 1 teaspoon of sugar.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So if we think of blood glucose regulation, why would that be a focus when it comes to nutritional therapy?
Yeah, so blood glucose regulation is definitely one of the foundations, because if it becomes dysregulated, it just leads to all a host of different problems. The biggest, largest problem being diabetes or type 2 diabetes. But on the way to that, it can cause just a whole lot of problems, from brain fog, food cravings, weight gain, all of these health issues that a lot of people deal with, but don't necessarily realize it's due to the blood sugar not being stable.
Okay, so I would also just like to add that it's because it's affecting every aspect of our human physiology. And because we need it for energy production and balance, the tissue integrity of every organ and blood vessel can be affected if our blood glucose is dysregulated. So specifically when we think of high blood glucose, if we think of the amount of sugar that is in the blood, the damage that it can do to blood vessels. I think that is one of the things that we focus on quite a bit when we were studying, because with all this added sugar in the blood, because we need to have, like you said, 4 to 5 grams of sugar in the blood at all times, if you, I mean, fully grown adult. And so when we have all of this extra sugar in the blood, it can cause so much damage to blood vessels. And that's why, I mean, cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, all of these kind of things, fatty liver disease, all of these things is a result of excess sugar. And with our modern diets, I mean, it's so filled with carbohydrates and sugars and sweets and all of the yummy stuff in the world. I mean, we are eating so much more sugar than we did just 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's affecting our hormone balances. It's affecting our brain health, our mood, our cognitive function. It's affecting everything in life. And I think for us ladies specifically, it's so easy to become dysregulated in our blood glucose because of the stresses that we go through. And so we are also more naturally gravitating towards carbs and stuff like that. And then our hormones are suffering. I mean, specifically if you get your middle 30s, you maybe have 1 or 2 kids, and then you go through all the stress and all of the things of life. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where, shit, it's a hormonal disaster. And I mean, many times the root of that is dysregulated blood glucose. I mean, at least at this, as a foundation for how it started to go haywire.
That's for sure. I mean, hormones are closely related to blood sugar regulation.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, as you said, like our world is filled with cheap sugar, cheap carbohydrates. It's just too easy to have access to them. They're the cheapest of the macronutrients. So, yeah, I mean, if you think back to the ancestral diet, you know, back in terms of simple carbs, it would just be sugar, fruits and honey.
Mm-hmm.
The food
Which
would just be
seasonal as well.
Which is also seasonal for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, we didn't have that much access to all this sugar, but with like the Industrial Revolution and now it's just everywhere. It's foods that you wouldn't even expect, you know, like tomato sauces, soups, canned goods, like all these ultra processed foods. And yeah, I mean, it's real epidemic, this sugar.
Yes. I mean, even if we look at our kids and how our kids eat, it is nothing what we were used to when we were kids. I mean, okay, my dad might have not cared about health, and he just said, you know, you need to eat a sandwich. So we had our cereal for breakfast, and then we had our sandwich after school, and then we all have a cooked dinner in the evening. But for today, I mean, I used to pack really healthy lunches for my kids. At least I thought so. Looking back now, there was a couple of people that sometimes commented, because I used to run a Facebook group, and a couple of people messaged me and said, isn't that too much fruit for kids? And I mean, at that stage, I was very focused on a raw food diet. So, and I thought, you know, it's all this vitamins, this nutrients, all of this stuff. Little did I understand how even that, just a whole bunch of fruit, can dysregulate blood glucose. And that fruit sugar, the fructose, is one of the worst for the liver. And
I mean, I wouldn't vilify fruits too much if they're eaten whole.
No, obviously, but we ate a lot of fruit. We did. So, and I mean, I tried my best with that, but if you look at school lunches today, or lunch boxes, or stuff that the snacks, I mean, I didn't grow up with snacks. There was no such thing. But it's all these snacks that the kids are getting, and they get to eat every 2 to 3 hours, and that just causes havoc, and it sets them up for failure.
And the worst, I think, is probably sweet drinks. Just so, and I don't know, iced coffees with the syrups and all of that. That just goes straight to your bloodstream.
Yeah, so and I think I want to mention here the difference between sucrose and fructose is that sucrose, your body deals with that excess sugar through insulin. But with fructose, it doesn't affect the insulin. The liver metabolizes it. And that's why fructose is so horrible on the liver. So like you say, you talk about sweet drinks. So I'm thinking of fruit juices here. I mean, every American household has their orange juice, their OJ in the morning with their breakfast. And that was kind of like, like the thing that everybody looked up to when you saw a movie or you saw an ad, and it was always this orange juice with breakfast, and it looked like the perfect household. But now looking back, while you understand that fructose itself is a very big burden on the liver, and that is one of the biggest things contributing to fatty liver disease, is fructose, because of the way it is metabolized in the liver. And now both alcohol and fructose are metabolized in the liver and leads to fatty liver. This is why alcoholic fatty liver was the one that was mostly known, but nowadays it's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that is the big thing taking over, and you get it in the kids as well.
Yeah, no, that is scary, and yeah, no, it's true. I mean, our liver's already very much taxed, so over consuming those, yeah, can be a bad idea.
Okay. So let's quickly look at how does the body deal with excess glucose.
So yeah, so the body can only absorb so much glucose and process it at one time, and any extra will be sent to the liver or stored in your fatty tissues, which is why excess glucose does turn into fat, but diet fat that you eat does not necessarily convert into fat.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if we talk about people that is focused on weight loss, and I think a lot of my followers started following me back in Qatar when I was going through my weight loss journey, where I posted a lot with what I was going through. So I think a lot of my followers are interested in how to lose weight. Now, everybody knows sugar is bad, but I think the thing that we misunderstand is the amount of sugar that we consume. And it's not just sugar, it is carbohydrates, it's the bread, it's the pasta, it's the rice, it's the potato, it's even the sweet potatoes, even complex carbs. I mean, it does convert into glucose. And so the thing that we need to understand is that the liver can only store so much glycogen. So the moment glucose is metabolized and then it gets stored as glycogen, it first goes to the liver, then to the muscles, and then into the adipose tissue. And then it is stored as triglycerides. So when you are trying to reduce your glucose intake, you need to focus on all of those areas and help your body to heal the liver. That's why we always encourage some form of movement, exercise, building muscle, because your body gets rid of those stores, and then you can start burning the fat. So we are either in carb burning or in fat burning.
Exactly.
So that is very important for us to understand, that the body stores it firstly in the liver. When your liver is full and cannot take any more, then you start putting on in your body, and then in your stomach, your waist area, or the bums, or wherever. So so for glucose, that's how we store glucose. And we see ladies put up weight differently. It's either around the waist, or it's around the bums, or it's in the arms, in the chest, or in the face. And all of these are signs of what is going on. But at the end of the day, the thing that is the most important is focus on your liver, reduce your glucose and fructose, focus on helping the liver, and then burning the extra triglycerides and glucose in the muscles.
Yes.
So it gives the body also more capability to store that glucose, so that it will help to regulate your glucose balance.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so another thing that I wanted to add is if you're ingesting glucose, so yeah, you need to just remember that so glucose, like different macronutrients will raise your blood glucose at differently.
Yes.
So glucose will, you know, raise at the highest, protein less, and then fat the least. But it's very important to just yeah, balance all of these so that like your blood glucose doesn't just, you know, shoot up and then go back down again. And that's just going to give you like more stable energy day, stable mood, and like you don't want to just focus on one macro at a time.
Yes, that's true. And also when people are now finding, okay, I need to regulate my blood glucose, don't just go overnight and start fasting, because you can become hypoglycemic as well when your body is not used to this sudden lack of glucose. So it is something that we definitely encourage to do gradually, and then also replace it with protein or replace it with fat, and then slowly wean off. That is also the most, let's say, future-proof method of doing it long term. Because the moment that you're going to just all of a sudden change your diet and you're going to have these blood sugar crashes and you're going to feel tired, you're not going to feel you have energy, you're going to fall asleep in the middle of the day, you're going to want to resort to other things. And this is where we come in and try to help and say, okay, but this and this you can do because it will give you sustained energy.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about, yeah, the doing it slowly but surely, you know, no drastic change. Have to just eat more often, smaller meals at first, and then gradually just, you know, increase those meals, but like reduce the frequency.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about listening to your body, but, you know, little changes if you want it to last in the long term.
Yeah. Okay, well, you made a comment there, which is very interesting to me, starting with smaller meals. From my experience, I want to stand up for those people that are the same as me. A lot of our ladies don't eat, but gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, what worked for me was when I started eating more, because it helps the body to relax. You in this fight and flight state. Your blood glucose is dysregulated because you are stressed. You don't sleep well. You don't get enough movement. You don't look after your mental health or stuff like that. I mean, even since now, this is the first time I am open about this on my Instagram. Since I moved to Germany, I picked half of the weight that I lost in Qatar. I picked it back up. And it was all due to stress. We've had a disastrous 2 years since we moved here. It was really not easy. And the first couple of months, easily the first 6 months, I couldn't sleep. And now the first couple of months, I was still trying to manage it and do the things that we knew how to do and try to balance the blood glucose. But slowly over time, it becomes more and more difficult. I barely eat, but I keep picking up weight. And then the problem with this is that's when your blood glucose is dysregulated, and then you start getting all the cravings. So if you don't sleep well, you have more cravings. If your vitamin D is low, you have more cravings. There's so many different things contributing to weight gain. It's not only just you need to reduce your portion size. It really does depend on what the situation is of the person.
No, what I meant with smaller meals is more, I mean, overall, I agree, you definitely need to be eating enough throughout the day, you know, to cover for all your energy needs. But sometimes, especially if your blood glucose is highly dysregulated, it might be easier to break it down into frequent smaller meals rather than just, you know, like 2 or 3 main meals, just while it regulates. But absolutely, you should definitely be eating enough. I see it a lot as well with clients who are either trying to lose weight or who are very focused on their diet and eating clean, and they don't eat enough calories, which means the body goes into survival mode, and any extra food that comes in, like your body just hangs on to it, and it's difficult to lose the weight. So yes, absolutely, you need energy to burn those calories. Yeah, sometimes we have to yeah, just think about the big picture rather than just, you know, calories. It's all about, you know,
Yeah.
having your body, having enough energy, fueling your cells, having enough, yeah, energy for all of the processes that your body do every day for you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. How do we know we have excess glucose in our blood?
How do you know? So you mean the technical?
Yeah.
Official?
So, I mean, okay. Like you said, we should have 4 to 5 grams of glucose in our blood at any given time. So anything that we consume that is going to raise that amount is excess, correct? Because we are supposed to have 4 to 5, but it's not always bad. And this is the thing that I really would like people to know. It's okay if you have blood sugar spikes. It's okay if you have those blood sugar drops, but it shouldn't be all day long.
Correct.
You shouldn't constantly let it go up and down, up and down, up and down the whole time. You want your body to get in that extra glucose because, like you said, it's the preferred fuel source. You want your body to get that fuel, but then be able to use it and not necessarily store it. It's that moments that we eat all the extras that we shouldn't, which is that is going to overburden the liver, go into the muscles, then in the adipose tissue. And let's say it was now weekend. A lot of people like their cheat days, right? Now I had my cheat day. I maxed out everything that my body is physically capable of handling. And now tomorrow I want to go eat, let's say, a little bit of something. But yesterday I already overburdened my liver with my cheat day, or I already overfilled my muscles with glucose, and I have already started storing stuff as triglycerides. Those are the ones that are the extras that's going to add up and cause havoc.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with the elevated blood glucose starts when our liver is saturated with glycogen and our muscles are saturated with glycogen, and all the excess glucose needs to be stored as adipose tissue, as triglycerides, which are the sugars, the carbohydrates, and all of those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yes. So, I mean, so your question, how do we know what kind of symptoms can come up?
We'll look at symptoms soon.
All right.
We'll look at symptoms soon. Yeah, no, I'm just following a thing that I typed out just to help us give some structure to the discussion. So, all right, let's look at what is dysregulated blood glucose.
Yes, of course. So, what is it? It's when your, I mean, in simple terms, it's when your blood glucose goes above or beyond that small tolerated limit that your body can tolerate. And so let's see, if you drink orange juice on an empty stomach, for instance, you said, or like something even, you know, any kind of high carbs or, you know, simple sugar.
I mean, it's very common, and I see it here in Germany as well. Donut and coffee for breakfast.
Yummy. Yeah, I used to have like croissant and coffee for breakfast for many years. So yeah. So you would have that. So the extra glucose that your body doesn't need is going to go to the bloodstream, and then your brain will start signaling to your body, to your pancreas actually, to release insulin, the hormone that's going to let all the extra glucose get into the cells. So the insulin comes in to store that glucose away that cannot be processed. So that is what happens when you consume sugar, carbohydrates, and as you said, it's not necessarily bad. What is bad is if it goes up too much and too often, really, because that just causes a lot of health problems down the line.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so you mentioned that there's like a specific special gap, like homeostasis, where our blood glucose should be functioning in between. So if I understand it correctly, our blood glucose should be between 70 and 90 fasting. And when we eat, it should not go above 120, because that above 120, and this is 1 hour after eating, it's not 2 hours after eating, because at 2 hours after eating, your blood glucose should be back to baseline. And so 1 hour after eating, 45 minutes to 1 hour after eating, it should not exceed 120.
Mm-hmm.
Anything above 120 is already the gray line where it starts to cause trouble. Now, for people that is trying to focus on health and well-being, that would be the cutoff. If whatever you eat raises your blood glucose over 120, for you, that is not good. Whether it's a fruit, whether it's a vegetable, whether it is a protein, no, I don't care what it is. The moment for your body, and this is individual. This is not something that you can say, okay, you cannot eat that or you shouldn't eat that. This is individual to everybody. This is why having a blood glucose monitor is of so much value. I remember when I did my journey, I got one of those finger pricking ones, and I pricked it like a million times a day. I didn't have space left on my fingers to prick, but it was the most interesting part of my entire journey. I learned so much about myself. I learned what worked for me. I learned what didn't work for me. I learned how long it took my body to come back to baseline. And I learned all these tiny tricks and stuff, how to help my body reach baseline again. And then there was moments where if I didn't eat and I started feeling like heart palpitations or something, I could check my blood glucose and, oh, for some strange reason, it's going up and I didn't eat something. And then, you start to learn and manage your own body and your symptoms. So for me, that was a really very, very interesting journey of learning where that golden thread was for me. Now, for me, my glucose, my baseline where I felt the best was 89. Now, for other people, that is very high for their baseline, because like I say, it's between 70 and 90. So I was at the upper limit, which clearly indicates that in my past, I really had blood glucose issues. That's why my baseline was higher than some other people. And then getting into the motion of training yourself, take your blood glucose after everything you eat, whether it's a snack, whether it's a meal, whether whatever, and see what it does to your blood glucose and see if it's good for you. Because keeping your blood glucose after a meal or after a snack or whatever you're having at 120 max, then you know you are doing the least damage.
True, yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's okay if you every now and again go a little bit higher, but it needs to come back. But if you are starting in your journey of health and healing, try to keep it at 120 and below when you eat, and don't let it go over.
I'm going to say, I mean, I know a lot of people who have loved their CGMs and who do really well on it, but I think also learn to read your body is important. And some people can get a little too focused on, the variations. Like a stressful event is going to raise your blood glucose.
Yes, it will. Sports, doing exercise will.
Or a bad night of sleep will also affect your blood glucose for the following day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be a very important exercise, very interesting exercise, but I also like to, just, teach people like how to know if they think their blood glucose is okay, like how they feel, if, how crash feels, and yeah.
I quickly want to answer a question that somebody asked here. Let me see. Should you check it right after you eat? No. So you can check it before you eat, and then 50 minutes to 1 hour after you eat, you can check your blood glucose. And then again, 2 hours afterwards, because in 2 hours afterwards, it should come back down. So it was just a question that somebody asked here.
So that's why sometimes the CGM, so the continuous glucose monitor, is a little sensor that your arm, and that just constantly measures it.
Yeah.
Instead of having to prick your fingers, but then it's expensive, obviously.
Yes. One comment I just want to leave people, because I lived in the Middle East and our temperatures were so hot, it influenced my continuous glucose monitor. So mine was always close to 15, 20 points out. And when I asked, was Dr. Sarah Gottfried, do you know her? She was at that stage, she was also doing it quite often. So Dr. Sarah Gottfried, I messaged her and I asked her, okay, well, mine is not very accurate. And so she mentioned that if your glucose monitor is not accurate, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they can replace it for you, because it is not supposed to be that amount out. It can be anything varying, like 5 points, like between your, if you prick your finger and your continuous blood glucose monitor. It should be very close in range. It shouldn't be so far out. So for those who want to try it, just in the beginning, test your monitor first and just see, is it accurate? That is one thing I've personally learned, which, I mean, it gave me a lot of stress seeing it so high all the time when it wasn't really. So, okay. All right. So basically, dysregulated blood glucose is when your blood glucose goes too high or too low. So we constantly focus on too high, but there is people that really do struggle with too low as well. So, and I think if you are somebody that struggle with hypoglycemia, the question you should ask yourself, now there is various different reasons for hypoglycemia. But if you fall in the category of somebody that loves high carbs, you need to make sure that it's not reactive hypoglycemia, where it goes too high and then all of a sudden fall really low. This can also be a sign of your liver struggling and your pancreas struggling, because it's giving out all of this insulin, and then all of the glucose finally goes in, and then it's just this big crash. And then you have all these hypoglycemic symptoms. Now, like I say, it's not the only reason for hypoglycemia, but it's definitely one of the things that can be considered.
I when I was a teenager once, I experienced vision loss from hypoglycemia. Yeah, it was very odd. Just temporary, but yeah, I still remember it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if mine was similar. So I used to live off of sugar. Really, I always say I'm a sugar addict. And this is why when I finally, learned about health, wellness, nutrition, and all of these kind of things, I really found it very interesting. And I think it was good for me to start with a raw food diet where it was very flavorful, sweet fruits and stuff like that. So it was like a good hook to pull me in. But I mean, obviously it wasn't that good for me personally in the long run. But whenever I used to do sports, now I was an athlete in school, whenever I used to play tennis or, run or go for a jog or anything like that, I would have those moments where it will all go dark. It's like you can't see anything. You just know you need to stop.
Yes.
This is
yes.
I need to breathe.
Yeah. Your body.
So I think it sounds similar to what you are explaining. And I mean, for me, that would make 100% sense that is a blood glucose issue, because I lived off of sugar.
Yes, no, of course, sounds like a very deep crash.
Sorry, my doggies just want to come in and out all the time. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the different phases of dysregulated blood glucose.
Different phases, yeah. I mean, excuse me. So first you would just have kind of compromised blood sugar regulation. So it's just that your body is just having to work a little bit harder to get that blood sugar back into range. And then if that persists, then you would have, as you mentioned, reactive hypoglycemia with insulinema, which is just that insulin that's shooting up to trying to correct and often overcorrecting that glucose spike. After that, you have insulin resistance. And so that's your body just pumping more and more insulin, but the glucose is just struggling to get into the cells. And then after that, there's pre-diabetes.
Metabolic syndrome.
Metabolic syndrome. And then eventually it turns into after prolonged metabolic syndrome. Then you'd be diagnosed with pre-diabetes before you eventually would be diagnosed with
type 2 diabetes. Yes. So I wanted to say something. I completely forgot now. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say is that for people who have insulin resistance, meaning that your insulin is chronically high, your insulin can be high for years before it starts affecting your blood glucose, before you can actually see it on your fasting glucose.
Yes.
And so that is something that we need to consider. So the thing is, our body can overproduce insulin because of high carbohydrate diet or whatever. If you're a sugar addict like me, it doesn't even always need to be, pasta, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I didn't grow up with a lot of pasta, but I mean, bread, yes, I did have that a lot, but it doesn't need to be that. But I loved sweets, sugar. I mean, me and my sister, what we would do if we didn't have money to go down to the shop, we would take butter, sugar, and flour and mix it together, and we'll just eat that.
Wow.
I mean, we did probably daily. That was our little treat if we didn't have money to go and buy sweets. So, I mean, if you have that kind of lifestyle where you will do anything for sugar, you are increasing your insulin and you're training your body that you need so much more insulin to deal with all of that excess sugar in the blood. And then so insulin can be high for a really long time before you start seeing, dysregulated blood glucose and that there's a problem. So that is just something interesting that I think I wanted to mention. But now we can go over to signs and symptoms.
Signs and symptoms, dysregulated blood glucose. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so let's look at phase one. Let's look at phase one of compromised blood glucose. What would be symptoms of phase one?
Craving.
If you have a cheat sheet, you're allowed to use that.
Craving. No, it's on my phone, so what I'm using. There'll be craving for sugar or carbs, weight, having difficulty losing fat. What else? Just hunger, general hunger.
Yeah.
Not feeling satisfied.
Increased hunger and reduced satiety.
Yes, exactly, from regular meals. So that
weight gain, increase in blood pressure, and also difficulty to burn fat for weight loss. That would be phase one of compromised blood glucose regulation. So this is the signs and symptoms of the 5 phases. Phase 2, we look at hyperinsulinemia and reactive hypoglycemia. Mm-hmm. So may I read this because...
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so for phase 2, we generally find people having fatigue and low energy levels. Anything when it comes to dysregulated blood glucose always affect energy because of our mitochondria that needs the glucose to produce energy. So when there's dysregulation, the body starts struggling to produce energy. Okay, so for phase 2, fatigue and low energy levels, strong cravings for sweets and caffeine, relentless hunger, irritability, anxiety, nervousness, and feeling lightheaded if meals are skipped, feeling jittery or shaky between meals. This is where everybody says, I'm hungry. Skin tingling, sweating, rapid or irregular heartbeats, headaches, memory issues, difficulty concentrating or thinking clearly like brain fog, blurred vision, insomnia, and I assume sleep talkers falls in this category. I was quite surprised when I saw that. My husband has been talking quite a bit in his sleep nowadays, so
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but he is on medication and he is busy working with a doctor to reduce his medications. And ever since he's starting to talk in his sleep, and I do find it interesting though, listening in inside information. Okay, let's look at phase 3, the one that is a big topic in the world right now, insulin resistance, because that goes hand in hand with fatty liver as well. Insulin resistance. So what signs or symptoms do you see with insulin resistance?
So a very visual, but there's like people get these dark marks on their skin. So neck, I think armpits, can be on the back as well. And it's more pronounced, obviously, if you have more pigments in your skin. So if you have like darker skin, so that's quite a telltale sign.
Yeah, also the skin tags.
Skin
tags. Or another thing that I found interesting a couple of years ago when I did some research, people that have polyps, like women who have not ovarian polyps, come on.
PCOS?
No, hang on. I'm slipping up in English here. The womb. Give me the right word, the uterus. Thank you. Oh, gosh, my brain. English is not... Sorry, it's not my first language. Anyway, so polyps in the uterus or polyps in the colon. That is also symptoms of insulin resistance, because they are the exact same thing than a skin tag, which you get. Yes.
Okay, I didn't know about that one.
That is really interesting to know, because if you, for any reason, need to go in and have a procedure done and your doctor says, well, you have these polyps, then yes, there is a very big likelihood of insulin resistance.
Super interesting. Wow. And then, yeah, I mean, other signs I think is just more fatigue, more hunger, more brain fog, more cravings. Yeah.
Increased weight.
Exactly.
Increased blood glucose, blood sugar regulation, and also cholesterol. Cholesterol is very important, because I think a lot of people misunderstand that the whole thing of cholesterol, your LDL, is influenced by your glucose intake. So if your LDL is high and your HDL is low and your triglycerides are high, that is a clear indication that you are consuming too much glucose.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. And also mood disorder. Say again.
For the weight gain, it tends to be more important for people who put on weight around their belly, rather than like thighs or some other areas.
Yes. Okay, and then we can also look at mood disorders like depression, anxiety, and all the others. They all fall in this category as well, because of insulin resistance. Hormonal imbalances, like we mentioned earlier, including the thyroid, digestive hormones, which is insulin, leptin, ghrelin, all of those, and then the sex hormones as well, your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all of those. And then slow wound healing. Slow wound healing is a symptom of insulin resistance, of high glucose. Then premature aging.
Yeah.
because of the glycation. Yeah, I think for people that might not know what glycation is when the glucose bind with a protein and they come together and they are heated up. So think of when you are cooking. If you are cooking beef and you put a sauce over, or chicken, you put some sauce over that's got a sweetener in it, you always have like that gooey consistency after cooking. That is glycation. And that is pretty much what is happening inside our bodies. And when we do the blood test, the hemoglobin A1C, that is a glycation hemoglobin test to see how much glucose has glycated onto your hemoglobin. And that is exactly what they test. And then it's in the lifetime of the blood cells, which is a 3-month cycle. And that's what they are testing. So that is what your hemoglobin A1C is. So when you are insulin resistant, your hemoglobin A1C will be higher, and you will be having all these other issues as well. So, all right, so let's look at phase 4, metabolic syndrome.
I mean, metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, is characterized by usually obesity. I think it's abnormal cholesterol levels, as you mentioned previously, insulin resistance, and the fourth, what is the fourth? High blood pressure?
Yes, high blood pressure. But there's multiple. So the thing is, to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, they say out of the 5 that is in the category, you need to at least have 3. So, but some of the other things that we will look at, like you say, is abdominal obesity, systemic inflammation, high fasting blood glucose over 100 milligrams per deciliter. Your hemoglobin A1C will be above 5.5. And then you will have dyslipidemia, which is high LDL, like I just mentioned, low HDL, and high triglycerides, and high blood pressure. So out of all of this, you need to at least have 3 to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. But this is just the signs and symptoms to look for. Okay, and then phase 5, type 2 diabetes. What are the signs and symptoms that we see that should concern you to be tested for type 2 diabetes?
I mean, usually you would have been diagnosed beforehand with prediabetes. It can take 10 years between prediabetes to turn into diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd go for a blood test and they would see. But actually signs and symptoms, I mean, would just be more of all the previous, right? So difficulty to lose weight, being very hungry.
Yes.
I know.
And the hunger will persist even after you had a meal.
Yes. Yes.
And that would be that leptin resistance.
Precisely. And then what else would you have? Yeah, just frequent urination. Don't know if that's
increased thirst and persistent fatigue, tingling sensation in the hands and feet, increased urination, extreme high blood glucose, at least one reading of over 200 milligrams per deciliter in 24 hours. You just need one of those that high, and that can be a sign that your body is really struggling with glucose metabolism. And then your hemoglobin A1C, like I said, the glycated hemoglobin reading will be above 6.4.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how do we correct this?
Correct this. I mean, there's, I was going to say there's no secret pill, but nowadays there is. But before that, it'll just be, you know, a healthy diet and lifestyle. So, you know, you want to balance your macros. Well, ideally, if you're in the extreme categories, try and reduce or remove all the simple sugars. And by balancing macros, you know, I mean, just have the right amount of, you know, protein, fat, and carbs. Reducing your stress levels is, you know, very important. Moving, you know, moving, using the glucose, the glycogen that's stored in your muscles. Just exercising, or even just.
You mentioned something about sunlight exposure and circadian rhythm. Do you want to share a little bit more about that and how that influences our blood glucose?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so there's, first of all, there's like some seasonal variations based on insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. So summer months, in the summertime, if you think like more globally, there's tends to be more sun, which means that's the season where you have like all these super sweet fruits coming along. And then in terms of animals, they have a lot more food available, so they just eat more. So in general, it's a season of abundance. So our body is more insulin sensitive. So that is the time when you eat fruit, because your body is better able to handle it, provided that you don't have, insulin resistance and all of those. But summer and during the day as well. So during the daytime, your body is also more insulin sensitive, again related to the sun and our natural circadian rhythm. In fact, there were some studies done on rats who were exposed to 1 hour of blue artificial light at night, and then they were drinking more sugar water. And provided that they were actually given a bunch of other options to eat or drink from. So they had water, they had lard, they had like normal food. Just 1 hour of blue light exposure at night affected them the following day.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I mean, nowadays we're exposed to so much artificial light, especially at night.
Yes.
So to look out for.
So on the comment that you made that we are more insulin sensitive during the day, I would like to add something which I found was really interesting, is the fact that melatonin, which is obviously our hormone that helps us to sleep, which is obviously produced like about 2 hours after sunset, that hormone suppresses insulin. So this is why whenever you get somebody that is in the health and wellness space, they will always try to encourage you to eat during daylight hours. Because the moment that you eat in the evening and your body is already starting to produce melatonin, it will suppress the insulin. And then you have all this excess glucose in your blood. And I mean, if we want to discuss blood glucose regulation, I think it's a very important concept for us to understand. That is why you are being encouraged not to eat late at night. Don't eat at least 3 hours before you go to bed, because then your melatonin is really high, and then it's going to, your blood glucose will stay increased all through the night. And that's when you're going to start waking up to go to the toilet. You're not going to sleep very well. The next day, you're going to wake up in a stress mode. You're going to crave more sugar, and so on and so forth. So, from that perspective, I would just like to add that.
And actually, what you said, waking up in the middle of the night is also a subtle sign of blood sugar regulation. Yes. Ideally, your body just sleeps through, and people think, oh, it's because I need to pee. But it's your liver just kind of overworking and waking you up, and then you get to pee like.
Yeah. But I mean, our kidneys are also playing a big role in blood glucose regulation. And when there was too much glucose in the blood, for those people who really need to wake up to pee, if you wake up in the night to go to the bathroom, to urinate, that is something that you need to question. It means that there is too much glucose in your blood and your kidneys are trying to get rid of it. So that is definitely also that is also why we have been taught that waking up in the evening is a sign of blood glucose dysregulation.
It can be.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, going back to the whole circadian rhythm, it is, I think it's one piece of just health and wellness that a lot of people are missing, but it is just so important, to just the optimal health and just getting a lot of things right. If you just follow your natural circadian rhythm, just think back, how did people live before we had all this light, it will help a lot.
So let's quickly summarize what people can do to correct dysglycemia. So we look at early morning sun exposure for the circadian rhythm. Then we look at a balanced diet, which includes protein, complex carbohydrates, and fats in every meal. Okay. And then we look at movement and exercise in order to use up the glycogen that is in the muscles and to make space for more and to increase our muscle mass so that we can better handle glucose. Then hydration. Hydration is really important in order for us to wash out all that excess and to help our bodies clear out the trash. Then, sorry, my dog is scratching my dustbin here. Hang on. No. Anyway, and then don't eat late in the evening. Don't be exposed to more than 1 hour of blue light a day, or specifically in the evening, I think.
Deep quality sleep.
Deep quality sleep.
And then stress, obviously, stress messes up your blood. Stress
management. So yeah, learning to manage stress, and I mean, if you need to do specific classes or something, to have that time away alone, to rest and reset your nervous system, and to manage with the stress. I mean, for me, when I was living in Qatar, I had the opportunity in the morning, immediately after dropping the kids at school, I had 1 hour for myself where I allowed myself to go to Aspire Park, and I went to go walk for 3 kilometers. I would get early morning sun. I would get exercise, movement. I get to sweat a little bit, get rid of toxins. And then I got home and I went to go have a brilliant breakfast. And that was fantastic. And I know that helped me a lot. Yeah, so it's all these small little tweaks and just getting a proper order in your day that I think is the one thing I think we miss, because the moment we become mothers, our lives are chaotic and everything is about the kids and you don't have that time for yourself. And unless if you figure out a way to make that time for yourself, you are going to struggle and your hormones are going to become messed up and your blood sugar is going to be dysregulated. So you need to find that time in the day where it's your time. And I think that is something very important for specifically for ladies.
I think so. It's sometimes that can just be 15 minutes. But
no, I had the privilege of 1 hour. But yeah.
Yeah. No. Sometimes it has to be 15 minutes or just, make time as you're on your way to pick up the kids, But I think it's about quality, not quantity, and just being like mindful that it is your time and focus on that. But yeah, absolutely important.
Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to add in the conversation that we've had? Anything about blood glucose? Anything that comes to mind that you want to just share?
Well, I'm just going to say that it was just something, especially you have a sweet tooth. I don't really, but it's not something that you just need to get rid of while you're trying to regulate.
Yes, you.
Yeah, be mindful to either have it, let's say, dessert rather than a sweet snack. So have it after a proper meal to reduce that spike, or just balance it out with a protein and a fat. But it's not a no-go. There should be some part of pleasure in.
Absolutely. If you want to do something long-term, you need to be able to do it in a way that you can manage those little pleasures in between. You need to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to function. You're going to feel like you're giving up everything for everyone. You're not even allowed to do this, or you're not allowed to do that. You need to give yourself that grace. You have to.
Exactly.
You really have to. So yes, I thank you for mentioning that, because that is something really important. Because I mean, for me, who is a sweet tooth, I am easily prone to gravitate towards something sweet. in the morning if I can't find something to eat, or if I'm stressed, or I naturally gravitate towards something sweet. And what I've learned when I went through the nutritional therapy course, what I've learned was protein. And for somebody that has always been a self-confessed sugar addict, I couldn't believe that I didn't have any sugar cravings. For me, that was beyond understanding. Where did it go to? For me, just to see that, okay, now that I'm getting the right amount of protein into my diet, the sugar cravings were gone. And for me, that was, wow, I didn't know it is a deficiency of some sort that led me to these cravings. So basically, when you have these specific cravings, your body is telling you, I need nutrients, I need you to eat, there's something I need, and you're not giving it to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, usually it's your body just wanting a quick source of sugar, sort of so sugar and fat, and but actually, yeah, if you eat enough protein, I mean, yeah, it's incredible how quickly or how much less you will have the sugar cravings.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a personal testimony of that. I've seen it multiple times in my life, how that happens.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, Tori, thank you so much for joining me today. I see we have made a 1 hour call again. I haven't managed to do a 30-minute call yet, even though one day I'll be able to do that. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insight and your guidance and your wisdom that you shared today. And I really hope that this will be of great value to anybody that's going to listen, where they can look at the signs and the symptoms of all the different phases and how they can manage what they have. And if anybody have any questions on how to do this, Tori is in Switzerland, Geneva. I am in Germany, Düsseldorf. And if this is in your area, if you can't find somebody in your area to help, reach out to us. We work online. So if you need somebody to help you through and guide you through, we are both available.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.